Hi everyone, it's Ashley with Go and Crochetzy and Happy New Year. We are officially into 2025 and I cannot believe it. It's been an incredible, busy, crazy year. In 2024, not only did I start my own YouTube channel and got over 2,000 subscribers, but I also did 14 markets in the entire year, which is the most markets I've ever done in my entire life, let alone in 1 year. In the past, I've always done 1, 2, maybe 3 tops in markets for the year. And so this year was crazy busy. It was a fun learning experience. I loved taking you guys along with me so that you could experience it in the eyes of me and how I shifted and changed throughout the year, how I built up my table more and more at each market. I added a little bit extra, which meant I did end up spending a lot of money on display pieces, a tent for outside markets, and much more. And I just figured this would be a fun time to come on and share my experiences with you, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the above. So number one, I have decided I do not like outdoor markets because the weather is so unpredictable and the wind alone can completely destroy a table, a look of a booth, and is very difficult, especially when you have plushies that you don't want falling on the ground. I think I did 3 markets this year that were outdoors, and one of them, it was basically like being in a tornado the whole time. I ended up having to take my tent down, even with my booth still set up. I had one person in each post taking the tent down because I was scared it was gonna blow away. It wasn't the fact that I was scared that my tent was gonna lift up and break. It was more that the top was gonna come blow off because the wind was pushing in and up, and it was very scary. I do not recommend that. But that was just one of the markets. The second market, it rained at, and so that's not fun either because then you have wet things inside and outside your tent. Thankfully, I have tent walls. If you are going to buy a tent for your markets, make sure you invest in one that has sandbags to hold your tent down and walls that you can put up so that when it is wet or gross or windy or anything else, you can put those walls up to protect your things and yourself. But the thing about wet is, one, my feet were soaking wet all day long, which was miserable. 2, not many people come out when it's wet out. And 3, you have to put everything away wet, and then you have to air dry it or dry it out somehow when you get home, which is not a fun thing. And then the third event I had that was outside, it was also a very windy day. I did not have my tent at that point. I was actually doing the market with a friend, and we could not stake down our tent because it was on pavement, and she actually had to go and buy cinder blocks for the tent to keep it down, to keep it stable while we were there. And that was not a fun thing. I was basically just throwing all my stuff on a table because it was so windy and it just kept knocking everything over. It does not make a display look very pretty, but you do what you got to do in those events. So yes, there is one market that I do plan to do again in this year, that is an outdoor market. And so that is the main reason I purchased a tent in the first place, is for this one specific market. And so I will try to get into that market. It's a hard one to get into. It's first come, first serve. She doesn't hold spaces for anyone. You just have to see her post when she is going to put up for that market, and then you jump on it and you try to get in as quick as possible so that you can be in on that market. The second thing I have discovered with markets is this year has gotten very crochet plushie vendor dense. It's been a difficult year. having to compete against other crochet plushie vendors. At the beginning of the year, I was probably one of maybe 2, 3 tops at these markets. By the end of the year, I swear every single person was putting up crochet plushies at their booth, whether they had a full booth of them or like they had some things that were not crochet plushies, and then they had like half the other table had crochet plushies. So the competition for it is getting a little stiff out there, which makes me a little concerned for 2025 and how much I really want to go into markets, knowing that there's going to be 3, 4, 5 tables at these markets. And the markets I go to are not very big. So it makes it really difficult to be successful in a market when you have so much other similar products at these markets. I think the area that I live in needs to really start keeping an eye on how many of the same thing they are putting into these markets, because it's kind of difficult to go to a market, and especially when you ask, are there going to be other crochet plushie vendors there, and they say no, and then you show up and there's like 3, and it's a little discouraging. I must say, I have been getting a lot of imposter syndrome when I go to these markets, which is not a fun thing to feel, and so that is something I'm going to be aware of in the new year. I think one way I can deter that from happening as much is just going and applying to the bigger events that are I know are gonna have a lot more people. Like the market I did outside in September, there was I think 3 or 4 of us that had the same types of items, but the market was such a big, busy, well marketed market to go to that it wasn't as harmful as it is when you don't have a lot of traffic going through your markets. So that is my biggest takeout from this whole thing, is I really need to crack down on which markets I am going to attend. And that was just kind of the experiment I was trying this year, or this past year, was that I wanted to try out all of these markets. I wanted to go everywhere, try everything, see which ones I liked, see which ones just weren't for me. And I definitely learned which ones are better than others. I do find the ones I pay more for usually have more people at them, and they are traveled much better. And so it's helpful to be able to recoup that booth fee plus, where the smaller markets that maybe don't charge as much for their booth fee, but aren't traveled as well, or aren't marketed as well, just they're not meant for me. Why am I putting all of my effort into this small untraveled area when I could be spending time at home with my family? My family is very important to me. My family comes first and foremost. I am a stay-at-home mom. I take care of my kid, I take care of my household, and I noticed that this past year I haven't been able to be as focused on my home specifically. I still try to keep as much focus on my son as I can, but in my home itself, I can see, just looking around here, I can see little things that need to be tended to that in the past would have been something I would have been right on top of. And this year it hasn't been as much of a focus because I've been crocheting so much more. So I need to pull back from too many markets and focus more on my home first, and then the markets is just secondary. It's just something I do on top of. It's something I do in my spare time. It's something I do to make myself feel fulfilled, but it's not necessarily a job for me. My job is a stay-at-home mom. My job is to tend to my family and my home. And I think this past year, I was really trying to make my job a market vendor, see if I could make it really successful in a market area. And at this point, I think that that's not quite it for me, because there's too much of the same thing going on, and I live in a small area, so it's really hard to be super successful in it when that it's just so oversaturated. So I'm definitely going to continue crocheting. I'm definitely going to continue going to maybe a handful of markets in the year, but I'm not going to have it be my main focus because it just doesn't fit me and my family. I want to spend much more time with my family. I want to enjoy crocheting. I found that crocheting was becoming a chore over an enjoyment for me by the mid-year, when I had a lot of markets like July, August, September, October, and into November. Months were very busy crochet wise, and so it became a little bit more stressful for me, and I don't want it to be stressful. I want to enjoy this. I want to continue enjoying this, and that's why YouTube is so awesome, because I can express my love and creativity on YouTube and not necessarily have to put myself out there as much in the market area, as I can share with you guys my experiences throughout the week. I can do new things and just get a lot more fulfillment. I really love getting to hear all of your comments and hear feedback from you guys, and I really have loved this community that we are building on YouTube together. And I've gotten to know a few people out off of YouTube on Instagram. So that has, I think, taken more of a fulfillment to me than maybe the markets themselves have. And so I get to stay at home and still feel fulfilled without having to exhaust myself extremely. And so that is a good place to be for me. I'm really excited that I did start this YouTube channel in the first place so that I could express my love of crochet, share my creations with you guys, and have that feedback come back, to see all of you guys loving maybe the reviews that I'm doing and everything else. So that has really been the best part of 2024, and trying something new and putting myself out there. When I first started my YouTube myself, if I couldn't get to 100 subscribers in 6 months, then I was just going to be done with it because it was just too much work. And then once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I was just awestruck. I just couldn't believe that I had gotten that many subscribers that wanted to watch me on YouTube crocheting. And so I thank all of you guys for joining in with me through this whole experiment, and I can't wait to do more with you guys. I have so many things I want to create with you guys, and I have so many different ideas. I just have to execute them, which means I have to crochet things to show you guys for my reviews and everything else. And so less time focused on markets and more time focused on sharing different creations with you guys on YouTube is kind of going to be my focus in 2025. Much more focus on what I enjoy making versus what I feel like I have to make for a market. I definitely lost interest in a lot of plushies throughout the year. I know you guys saw throughout my each and every market, I constantly change up my little miniature plushies because I would lose joy of making the bees and the octopuses and everything else. So I really looked for something different that would set me apart from everyone else. And I also really looked for something that inspired me to continue. And so I hope that me getting inspired by new patterns also helps you guys get inspired by new patterns as well. And I hope that I was able to be helpful to you with different projects. And I guess I am just rambling at this point because I started out talking about markets and now I'm talking about YouTube, and I am just all over the place. But I think that was just my year in general. I was just kind of all over the place, experimenting new things and trying out different stuff. And I think that I have definitely narrowed down my niche of where I want to be versus where I was at the beginning of 2024. year, I was pattern testing like crazy because I wanted to do all of the patterns and I wanted to do everything and I wanted to get my name out there and I wanted to be able to learn new techniques and everything else. And now I have definitely noticed that instead of making all of these giant plushies and these miniature plushies, I found I want to make, you know, a good medium-sized plushie and have just a wide array of those and just be able to enjoy the look of that. I've definitely narrowed down what my aesthetic is going to look like in 2025 versus 2024, where 2024 was honestly just kind of a hot mess. A little bit of everything thrown in there, and now I definitely know how to narrow that down, what I really want to focus in on, the creations I really enjoy making, and I'm going to do that. I do have some leftover inventory, so of course some of the other stuff will sneak into those markets here and there because I do still have that stuff, and so I do still need to offload some of that stuff, although I have gifted some of it through Christmas time to friends and family, but I do still have lots of it left, and so it will sneak in there, but I definitely know what I want to make, what I like to make, and I think I might even try my hand at creating my own patterns. It's something I've wanted to do for quite some years. I have so many patterns that I have written, just hand scribbled up over the years, but I've never actually put it down in a format to put out to Instagram or Etsy or YouTube or anything else. I've never actually put my work out there, and that might be something that I want to try in 2025. Although I did say I wanted to try that in 2024, but it was mostly to myself and not other people. So this is expressing it publicly to you guys. But my fear is I don't really know how to get started, how to format it. So if you guys have any ideas, if you're maybe a pattern writer yourself and you have ideas of how I can even just get started, I would love to hear your ideas, your thoughts, and your tips on that so I can start that journey. I actually do have a couple patterns written down already. I just have to put them in a format to get them out into the universe versus just sitting on it handwritten at home. So that might be something I want to do in 2025. Still, you know, it's just the beginning of the year. I still have a full 12 months to go, but I would like to maybe try to do at least one pattern, but we'll see what happens in this year. Definitely less markets this year. I'm thinking 3, 4, 5 tops for the year because it is a lot of work. It does take away from my family, and I just want to focus more on stuff I want to make this year versus thinking of making stuff for markets. I don't want to feel stressed out this year when it comes to crochet. I want to continue to enjoy my craft, and so in that way, I am definitely going to focus more on enjoyment and giving you guys some valuable content versus just trying to hunker down and crochet, and spend less time with my family. Family definitely comes first in my eyes, and I don't want to overlook them this year. And so definitely going to be focused more on family and less on crochet, but trust me, I'm still gonna crochet every single day because I can't go through a day without crocheting unless I am sick or on vacation. I have to crochet or I'm just grumpy. I have to crochet and I have to do a workout. Otherwise, you don't want to be near me. But with that said, I guess I have a couple things spoken now verbally to all of you guys for the whole world to hear. And so I have to hold myself, I guess, accountable to those because I'm expressing it to you guys here. And I have so much content I want to show you guys this year. I have some ideas for monthly things that I want to put out to you guys. I just have to create the creations first, and then you will see what I'm talking about. But it's been an idea I've had for the past month and a half, and I just have to finally execute it. Now that I have the time to do it, I don't have any markets in my future. I don't have any necessities I have to do at the moment, so I can now bring that stuff to you guys so you guys can enjoy it. But I'm gonna stop rambling now because I feel like I have just been chat, talking your guys' ear off, and you're probably exhausted by now. I think this is the most I've ever talked on one of my videos. I'm usually crocheting and thus talking, but I am going to go ahead and get started on some of that stuff for you guys right now. So I'm going to say, thank you all so much for joining in my channel, watching me, liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all that stuff. I really, truly do appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for hanging in if you still are, throughout this entire year, through Vlogmas and everything else. And I can't wait to share more and more content with you guys this year with more value and more enjoyment. And I will talk to you guys all on the next one. So bye.